My mother once dragged my paralyzed body across the floor, insisting I was faking it for attention after a spinal injury. That's when I went no contact. 5 years later, she resurfaced, faked having cancer, and tried to get me fired from my job teaching adaptive PE to disabled kids. The principal leaned back in her chair, studying me carefully. You're saying you want her to go public with these accusations? I nodded, gripping my cane tighter. She's been controlling the story for 5 years. It's time people heard the truth. The school board doesn't like controversy, she warned. They might ask you to take a leave while this is investigated. Then let them, I said. I have documentation, real medical records, x-rays showing 4 years of untreated fractures, bank statements proving she stole my prize money. The principal sighed. You have 1 week to get this resolved before I have to escalate it to the board. Can you do that? Yes, I said, even though my hands were shaking. 1 week. That afternoon, I was teaching my adaptive PE class when I noticed someone standing just beyond the fence. It was my mother. Phone raised, filming me in my wheelchair. When our eyes met, she smiled and waved like we were old friends. Miss, who's that lady? Asked Emma, one of my students. Just someone unimportant, I said, trying to keep my voice even. Let's get back to our stretches. But she kept coming back, every recess, every time we were outside, camera on. By Wednesday, I checked the school's Facebook page during lunch and nearly dropped my sandwich. Fraud alert. This teacher stole $60,000 from her dying mother and is faking paralysis for sympathy. I have proof she can walk. Our children deserve better than a con artist. There were 17 photos of me teaching in my wheelchair, each with captions accusing me of deceiving everyone. By the time I reported it to Facebook, it had been shared 43 times. My phone rang. It was Leo. Have you seen what she posted? He asked. Yeah, I said. I'm looking at it now. That's not the worst part, he said. She hired a lawyer. She's using your prize money to sue you for defamation and theft. I felt my chest tighten. She can't do that. That money was mine. I know. But she's claiming she was your legal manager. Says she has contracts. The next morning, 3 parents were waiting outside my classroom. We're pulling our children from your class, one father said. We can't have them around someone who would steal from their own sick mother. She's not sick, I began, but they were already walking away. By Friday, half my class was gone. I spent the weekend frantically contacting the doctors who had treated my fractures over the years. Dr. Lawrence refused to get involved, said he didn't want legal problems. Dr. Eliza had retired, and her clinic wouldn't give me her contact info. Only Dr. McAllister agreed to help, but he was out of the country until next month. On Monday, my physical therapist called me, confused. Your mom just called, pretending to be your aunt, she said. She was asking really specific questions about your mobility. I told her you could walk short distances with your cane. I thought she was family. Did I mess something up? My stomach sank. What exactly did you say? Just that you can manage 15 to 20 steps on good days before the pain gets too bad. Was that okay? Before I could respond, I got a text from Leah with an audio file. She recorded the whole thing, edited it, listen. The recording was rough but clear enough. She can walk 15 to 20 steps, manages good days. The context was stripped away. It sounded like my therapist was exposing me as a fraud. Tuesday morning, the principal called me in again. The board scheduled an emergency meeting for Thursday, she said. Your mother's lawyer sent them a formal complaint. They're calling it evidence. What kind of evidence? The recording, the photos, and testimonies from family members claiming you're mentally unstable. I spent Tuesday night on the phone with Leo. She's telling everyone she has cancer, he said. Aunt Belinda called me crying, said, You're heartless for abandoning your mom during chemo. She doesn't have cancer, I said. I know, but she has documents. I saw them when I was helping Dad dig through tax stuff, fake oncology reports, everything. Can you get copies? Already did, he said. I photographed it all, even found receipts showing she spent your prize money on cycling gear and a new car. Wednesday night, Leo called again. His voice was shaky. She found out I've been helping you. She kicked me out, threw all my stuff on the lawn. Come stay with me, I said instantly. Bring everything you've got. Leo showed up just after midnight with 3 boxes in his arms. We stayed up the rest of the night sorting through them. Old notebooks packed with documentation from our childhood, dusty phones filled with videos of my mother screaming at me to train through injuries, and photographs of me at 13, crying as she wrapped my swollen ankles. I kept everything, he said quietly. I knew one day we'd need it. Thursday came too fast. I dressed carefully, choosing to use my wheelchair even though it was technically a good day. The school board meeting was held at the district office, a building with terrible accessibility. Leo pushed me up the ramp while I held tight to my folder of evidence. My mother was already there with her lawyer, a sharply dressed woman who looked as expensive as her tone. My mother wore a tailored suit, styled her hair to look soft and fragile, and was suddenly wearing reading glasses I'd never seen in my life. "That's her," she announced loudly the moment she saw me. "The daughter who abandoned me during cancer treatment to go play the victim." The board consisted of 5 members, all visibly uneasy as we settled into the conference room. Her lawyer spoke first. "My client, Mrs. Kim, dedicated her life to her daughter's cycling career," she began. "She has financial records proving she managed Elise's income for years, photos showing Elise standing and walking during school events, and 6 testimonies from family members attesting to Elise's long-standing mental instability and history of pathological lying." She passed a folder around the table. Inside were images of me standing at the school's winter concert, leaning heavily on my cane, bank records from our old joint account, letters from relatives I hadn't heard from in years, each one claiming I was unstable, delusional. "Furthermore," the lawyer continued, "Mrs. Kim is battling stage 3 lymphoma. Her daughter took the money meant for her treatment. This is a clear case of elder abuse." When it was my turn, I kept it simple. "I have medical records showing spinal fractures going back to when I was 15, I said, handing out my folder. "These come from 3 separate hospitals over 4 years, and every time, my mother found ways to make me keep training." Leo stood up. "I have recordings," he said, pulling up a file on his phone. My mother's voice filled the room, shouting at me to stop being weak, to push through the pain, telling me I owed her Olympic gold. The board members shifted in their seats. One woman quietly covered her mouth as a particularly harsh clip played, my mother calling me pathetic for crying over back pain. Then the door opened. Dr. McAllister stepped inside carrying a box. "Apologies for being late," he said. "I flew back early when I heard about this meeting. I brought Elise's original x-rays showing progressive spinal damage across 4 years. I reported suspected abuse twice, but nothing ever came of it." My mother's lawyer quickly objected. "This says nothing about theft or fraud. My client isn't on trial for her past parenting decisions." "You're right," I said. "Let's talk about the money." I pulled out another document. I contacted the Cycling Federation. They confirmed that all prize money was legally mine as the athlete. My mother had no legal claim. She was never a licensed manager. Here's their official statement. The board president took the paper and reviewed it silently. "What about the paralysis?" he finally asked. "The accusation that you've been faking?" This was the part I feared most. I glanced at Leo. He gave me the smallest nod. "I can walk," I said, "exactly 17 steps, on a good day, before the pain from my fused vertebrae becomes too much to bear. Would you like me to show you?" The board exchanged uncertain glances. "If you're comfortable," the president said. I braced my cane, shifted my weight, and rose slowly. My legs trembled as I took my first step, then another, each one sending sharp bolts of pain up my spine. Step 10. Sweat was dripping down my back. By step 15, my vision was beginning to blur. At 17, my knees gave out completely. Leo caught me before I collapsed and helped me back into my wheelchair. Tears were rolling down my cheeks. I couldn't stop them. The pain was too real. "She's faking!" my mother screamed, bolting up from her seat. "I know my daughter. She's manipulating all of you." She lunged forward, but Leo stepped between us. "Don't touch her," he warned. "You're poisoning her against me," she shrieked. "You're both liars." Security stepped in as she continued screaming, about revenge, about lawsuits, about how we had ruined her life. They gently but firmly escorted her out while she kicked and yelled. The board recessed for an hour to review everything. When they returned, the board president spoke in a calm, measured tone. "We found no evidence of fraud committed by Ms. Kim. In fact, we commend her bravery in facing these deeply personal accusations so openly and thoroughly. Additionally, we are referring this case to the district attorney for further investigation into harassment and the submission of falsified medical records." My mother's lawyer stood abruptly. "I'll be withdrawing, as her legal counsel," the lawyer said. Then she left, without even glancing at my mother. 2 months later, I was in my classroom, scrolling the news on my phone during a planning period, when I saw the headline, "Former cycling manager, convicted of harassment, ordered to pay restitution." The Cycling Federation had launched their own investigation after our hearing. When they uncovered that my mother had forged manager credentials for years, they banned her for life. That same morning, Leo texted me a photo from his dorm room. He'd just started college on a scholarship from a cycling advocacy group that had heard about our case. "Thanks for everything," his message read. That evening, my dad called. "The divorce is final," he said. "I testified about the financial abuse. I'm sorry it took me so long to see what she was doing to you." It's okay, Dad, I said quietly. We're all free now. I'd started a new program at school for young athletes dealing with overbearing parents. We met every Wednesday, talked about boundaries, balanced training, and self worth. The kids started calling themselves the Safe Space Squad. A week later, a letter arrived in my mailbox. I recognized my mother's handwriting immediately. I almost threw it away, but curiosity got the better of me. Elise, I forgive you for ruining my life. Despite everything, I hope you're happy. You've destroyed your family, but I choose to release my anger. I hope someday you'll realize what you've done. Your mother? I laughed. Actually laughed. Then I framed it and hung it on the wall, right next to my teaching award. Sometimes surviving is the victory. And now I had both, side by side. The letter had been hanging for exactly 3 days when the first package arrived. It was waiting on my doorstep after school, wrapped in brown paper, no return address. Inside was a photo album I recognized from childhood. Pictures of me on different bikes, at races, training sessions. But every single photo had my face scratched out. Deep, deliberate cuts, like from a knife. Leo called while I was still flipping through the mutilated images. You get something weird in the mail? He asked. Yeah, I said. A photo album. My face is scratched out in every shot. I got one too, he said grimly. Old training videos. She added captions, calls us liars and thieves in every scene. The packages didn't stop. Every few days, another unmarked delivery showed up, copies of medical bills with threats scrawled in red ink in the margins, my childhood trophies, shattered into pieces, a copy of my birth certificate with UNGRATEFUL stamped across it. I reported everything to the police, but they told me without solid proof it was her, their hands were tied. No fingerprints, no return addresses, nothing traceable. 2 weeks after the letter, I was at the grocery store when I noticed someone following me. Every aisle I turned down, they turned down too. When I stopped to check my list, they pretended to examine the same products. Finally, I spun my wheelchair around. It was my cousin Bryn, someone I hadn't seen in years. Bryn? I said, confused. What are you doing here? He looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight. Aunt asked me to check on you. Mother sent you to spy on me. She said you're not well, that you need help but won't admit it. He gestured toward my chair. She showed us videos of you walking at that school meeting, said you only use the wheelchair for sympathy. I felt the familiar weight of exhaustion settle in. Bryn, I can walk exactly 17 steps. Then my spine feels like it's being crushed. Want me to show you the surgical scars? He backed up. She said you'd say that. Said you're really good at manipulation. Did she also tell you she stole $60,000 from me? She said you stole it from her. Showed us bank records. I pulled out my phone and handed it to him. The Cycling Federation statement filled the screen. His face went pale as he read it. This says the money was legally yours, that she wasn't even a licensed manager. Because it's the truth, Bryn. Everything she told you is a lie. He left looking rattled, but I knew better than to believe it was over. My mother had a whole extended family she could weaponize, and she was just getting started. That Monday, I arrived at school to find my classroom door plastered in paper. Dozens of printouts. Screenshots from a new website called The Truth About Elise. Pages filled with photos from my old racing days, spliced between long rants about ungrateful daughters who abandoned their sick mothers. My principal helped me tear them down. This is escalating, she said quietly. You may want to consider a restraining order. I tried, I told her. The judge said websites and defaced photos aren't enough to justify one. That afternoon, I noticed several parents whispering during pickup. One mom I'd always gotten along with avoided eye contact completely. By Wednesday, 3 more students had been pulled from my adaptive PE program. I found out why when one of the other parents, Mrs. McAllister, pulled me aside in the hallway. I wanted to warn you, Mrs. McAllister said in a low voice. Your mother has been calling parents. She's telling everyone you're being investigated for embezzling school funds, that the wheelchair is all part of an elaborate fraud scheme. My hands went cold. She's calling parents directly? She somehow got hold of the directory, she said, nodding. And she's convincing, crying about her poor, sick daughter who refuses treatment. Some people are falling for it. I thanked her and immediately called the principal. That evening, we drafted a carefully worded email to all the parents, trying to clarify the situation without violating any privacy laws. It was a delicate balance, but Mother was faster. By the time parents opened their inboxes, many had already received follow-up calls from concerned relatives, my Aunt Linda, my Uncle Raymond, cousins I barely remembered, each one repeating the same script, that I was mentally unstable, dangerous, and shouldn't be around children. Leo drove down that weekend to help manage the damage. We sat in my kitchen, surrounded by boxes of evidence, trying to plan our next move. She's recruited the entire family, he muttered. Dad called me yesterday. She started showing up to family events using a walker. She's telling everyone the stress of your betrayal gave her a stroke. A stroke? I stared at him. She's faking a stroke now? Complete with a forged doctor's note, he said. Dad saw right through it, but most of the family's eating it up. My phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. I'd been getting dozens of them. Calls from long-lost relatives, everyone ready to guilt-trip me about family loyalty. I let it go to voicemail. We need to go on the offensive, Leo said. She's spinning the narrative again. How? I asked. She's got 30 relatives making calls. We've got you and Dad. What about the parents? He said. The ones who still support you. You've changed their kids' lives. Let them speak. He was right. At the next school board meeting, 12 parents showed up to speak on my behalf. Mrs. McAllister went first, sharing how I'd helped her daughter, who has cerebral palsy, gain confidence and joy in movement. Another parent talked about how I'd modified equipment so their son with muscular dystrophy could participate in class. One by one, they stood up and told stories, real stories, about the work I'd done, the difference I'd made. But of course, my mother wasn't done. 6 relatives showed up, each with rehearsed statements about my supposed history of manipulation and a pathological need for attention. They presented new photos of my mother with her walker, medical documents about her so-called stroke, bank statements they claimed proved I'd stolen from her. The board looked overwhelmed. Finally, the board president spoke. This is turning into a circus, Ms. Kim. While we support you, we must also consider the disruption this is causing to the school environment. My stomach dropped. I knew what that meant. They were preparing to put me on leave. That's when Sammy's mom stood up. Sammy, the same student who, on the very first day, had asked me about the woman outside the fence. My daughter has spina bifida, she said. Before Miss Kim's class, she hated her body, hated her wheelchair. Now, she comes home talking about how her wheels make her fast, about how Miss Kim showed her how to do tricks. She looked straight at the board. You're seriously thinking about firing the one teacher who makes disabled kids feel powerful? The room erupted, parents arguing with my relatives, board members calling for order. In the chaos, I spotted my mother in the back row, no walker in sight, frantically texting on her phone. The board president banged the gavel hard. That's enough. Miss Kim keeps her job. Anyone disrupting school property again will be arrested for trespassing. Meeting adjourned. Mother's relatives filed out slowly, throwing dagger-like glares at me. But the parents stayed, surrounding me with words of support and warmth. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. But it didn't last. That weekend, Leo called, panic in his voice. She's suing Dad, claims he committed divorce settlement fraud, says he hid assets. She's demanding half his retirement. Can she do that? Her new lawyer thinks so. Dad's losing it. I spent Sunday on the phone with my father, trying to calm him down. He'd already burned through thousands on the divorce. The idea of more litigation was destroying him. Maybe I should just pay her, he said. Make it all go away. Dad, no, I said. That's exactly what she wants. If you give in now, she'll never stop. But I could hear it in his voice. He was breaking. She had started calling his employer, his neighbors, spreading lies, telling them he was under investigation, that he was unstable. By Monday morning, the attacks escalated. I found my car tires slashed in the school parking lot. Security footage showed someone in dark clothes with their face covered, no way to identify them. Tuesday, someone spray-painted fraud across my designated handicapped parking spot. Wednesday, the school's Facebook page was hacked. Hundreds of posts appeared overnight claiming I was under federal investigation for disability fraud. By the time the school regained control of the account, screenshots had already spread like wildfire through parent WhatsApp groups and online forums. I was losing, despite the board's support, despite the evidence, despite everything. My mother's smear campaign was working. More parents withdrew their children from my class. Colleagues began keeping their distance. Even the parents who had once supported me started acting guarded, like they didn't want to be caught in the middle. That Thursday, Leo found me crying in my classroom after school. Half of my students were gone. The adaptive equipment I'd spent years collecting sat untouched, unused, like ghosts of a program she was killing by inches. We need something big, he said, kneeling beside my chair. Something that exposes her completely. Like what? I asked, voice hollow. We've shown medical records, bank statements. Nothing stops her. What about the old videos? Leo asked. The ones from when you were a kid, really young. I stared at him. What videos? He pulled out a phone from one of the evidence boxes. I recorded everything, remember? Starting when you were 12. I've got hundreds of hours. That night, we sat together going through old footage. Most of it was painful to watch. My mother screaming at me to get back on the bike after crashes, me sobbing during training sessions with visible injuries, her calling me worthless for failing a workout, saying I was ruining her life. Then, we found it. A video from when I was 15, right after a race. I was on the ground, unable to move my legs. The camera was shaky, catching her voice off screen. "She's fine," my mother said dismissively. "Just being dramatic. Watch, she'll get up when she realizes I'm not buying it." The camera kept rolling. 5 minutes. 10. I still hadn't moved. Then, she grabbed my arm, trying to drag me up. There was a sickening crack. I screamed, a horrible, raw sound. "Turn it off," my mother hissed at the camera. But it kept going. Her saying we couldn't go to the hospital because they'd ask questions. Her calling me selfish for ruining her dreams. Deciding we'd just wait until morning to see if I got over it. Leo transferred the video to his laptop. "This is it," he said. "This proves everything." We made 4 copies that night. 1 for the police, 1 for the Cycling Federation, 1 for the school board, and 1 for Dad's lawyer. Friday morning, her new attorney contacted me. "My client is willing to drop all claims," she said, "if you sign a non-disclosure agreement. No public statements, no more videos, no contact with family members." "No," I said flatly. "She's prepared to escalate further. She has resources you don't." "She has my money," I snapped, "and I'm done being blackmailed." That afternoon, I uploaded the video to the school's official YouTube channel. The title was simple: "Why I Teach Adaptive PE." The response was immediate. Parents who had pulled their kids reached out to apologize. The Cycling Federation launched a full-scale investigation. Child Protective Services opened a retroactive case file, but my mother wasn't finished. That weekend, she showed up at my apartment complex with 5 of her relatives. They camped outside my door for hours, taking turns knocking, calling my name, pleading and shouting by turns. Neighbors filed complaints. My landlord called, asking what was going on. I stayed inside with Leo. We sat quietly listening. My mother's voice rose above the others, swinging between sobbing and screaming. "I'm your mother. You owe me respect. I gave up everything for you." Leo recorded the whole thing. By the time they left, we had over 3 hours of audio. It would come in handy. Monday brought another crisis. My mother had hired a private investigator to tail me. He wasn't subtle. Parked across from the school, trailing me to physical therapy, sitting in his sedan outside my apartment every evening. The principal noticed right away. "Is that man following you?" she asked. "My mother hired him. She's hoping to catch me walking without the chair. This is harassment. We're calling the police." But the investigator hadn't done anything illegal. He was on public property, watching, but never speaking, always watching. The stress started to take a toll. My back spasms increased. I relied on the wheelchair more often. The irony didn't escape me. Her harassment was making my disability worse, more visible. Leo stayed most nights now. He was afraid to leave me alone. We developed routines, scanning for suspicious packages, documenting every encounter, backing up files in multiple secure locations. One evening, while we were sorting through videos, Leo's phone rang. It was our cousin, Raymond. "I need to tell you something," Raymond said. "Aunt showed me her medical files, the cancer stuff. I work at that hospital. Those letterheads? Stolen. And the doctor she listed doesn't even exist." "Can you prove that?" Leo asked. "I already reported it to hospital administration," he said. "Forging medical documents is serious fraud." This was the break we needed. Finally, something real, something criminal, something the authorities couldn't ignore. The next day, I got a call from the district attorney's office. They were expanding their investigation. "Would you be willing to testify?" the woman asked. "Yes," I said without hesitation. My mother must have heard. Because the harassment escalated. More relatives began appearing near the school. A second private investigator started shadowing me. Packages arrived at my apartment daily now, each one more disturbing than the last. One box contained my baby shoes, laces tied into nooses. Another was filled with torn-out pages from my childhood diary, violent phrases scrawled in the margins. The worst was a doll in a wheelchair, its legs sawed off crudely at the knees. I documented everything. Then my phone rang, unknown number. But I was expecting a call from the DA, so I picked up. "You think you've won," my mother said. Her voice was low and cold. "You have no idea what I'm capable of." "Mother, you're not supposed to contact me." "I'm your mother," she snapped. "No court can change that. You want to destroy me? Fine. But I'm taking you with me." She hung up. I immediately called the DA's office to report the contact violation. That night, Leo and I were reviewing evidence when we heard the sharp crash of glass breaking. Someone had thrown a brick through my living room window. Attached was a note scrawled in black marker: "Liars live in glass houses." We called 911. This time, the police took it seriously. Between the shattered window, the threatening message, and the recorded phone call, it was enough. "We'll increase patrols," the officer said, "and we'll recommend upgraded charges to the DA." But I couldn't sleep. Every creak in the walls made me jump. Every parked car became a potential threat. Another relative, another PI, another ambush. The school responded quickly. They installed extra security cameras. A group of parents even volunteered to monitor the school during pickup and recess. The community was rallying behind me, but it felt like we were preparing for war. Then Wednesday brought another twist. Dad called. His voice sounded strange. "Your mother's been hospitalized," he said. A real hospital this time. She collapsed at the grocery store. What happened? Stress, maybe a panic attack, but she's telling people you poisoned her. I haven't seen her in months. I know, but some of the relatives believe her. They're talking about hiring their own investigators. I hung up, numb. Even from a hospital bed, she was weaving stories, playing the victim, building armies. Leo looked around the apartment at the towers of evidence boxes. "How does this end?" he asked. "She's never going to stop." And he was right. She wouldn't stop until one of us broke. The question was, who would break first? Thursday's mail brought an envelope stamped with the logo of a law firm I didn't recognize. Inside was a formal notice. My mother was suing me for intentional infliction of emotional distress, seeking $2 million in damages. "She knows I don't have $2 million, I told Leo, pacing. "She wants to bankrupt you," he said. "Force you to settle, to sign whatever agreement she puts in front of you." I sat down and thought about my students, my kids, the ones who needed adaptive PE, the parents who had stood by me, the quiet, steady life I had built despite everything. "Then we fight," I said. "We show everyone who she really is." That night, I started writing. Not a formal statement, not a legal defense, just my story. The little girl who loved riding bikes, the teenager who pushed through broken bones, the young woman who learned to walk again, the teacher who found her calling helping others. Leo helped me set up a blog. I posted my story, simple, honest, raw. We included every piece of documentation we had: videos, medical records, statements, the full truth. The response was overwhelming. Other athletes came forward, people who'd been pushed too hard, ignored, injured, silenced, parents, former coaches, survivors, a community of people who finally felt seen. But my mother had one last card to play. Friday afternoon, the principal called me into her office. Her expression was grim. "The superintendent received a package," she said slowly, "from your mother. It included medical records suggesting you have a personality disorder, that you're a pathological liar who believes your own delusions." I stared at her. "They're forged," I said. "They have to be. I've never been diagnosed with anything like that." "I believe you," she said gently. "But the superintendent is requiring an independent psychological evaluation before you return to work. You're suspending me? Administrative leave with pay just until this is sorted out." I left her office in a daze. She had done it. My mother had taken away the one thing I had left: my purpose, my students. Leo was waiting in the parking lot. One look at my face and he knew. "She got you suspended," he said. I nodded, unable to speak. "That's it," he said. "We're ending this. Tonight." Leo drove us straight to his apartment. I'd never seen Leo this focused. His jaw was set as he pulled into the parking garage. "Pack a bag," he said. "We're going to Dad's." "Leo, I can't just leave," I told him. "I have responsibilities. My students." "You're on administrative leave," he cut in. "And Mom's escalating. We need witnesses. We need people to see her now, not just the aftermath." I packed while he made calls. Dad agreed to host what Leo called a family intervention, but not for Mom. This was for everyone she'd manipulated. We arrived Saturday morning. Dad looked older, worn down by months of chaos, but there was something different in his expression, a steel I hadn't seen in years. "I've invited everyone," he said. "Every relative she's recruited. They need to see the truth." By noon, the living room was packed. Aunt Linda sat stiffly on the edge of the couch. Uncle Raymond leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Bryn was there too, along with Marielle and a dozen other cousins. Most of their faces were closed off, defensive. They believed they were defending a dying woman from her vindictive, ungrateful children. Mom arrived last, using her walker, of course, always for maximum dramatic effect. She'd lost weight, her appearance intentionally frail. Her eyes widened in theatrical surprise as she scanned the crowd. "A family meeting? How wonderful," she said brightly. "Maybe you'll all talk some sense into my daughter." Leo didn't say a word. He just connected his laptop to Dad's TV. We have something to show everyone. Mom's face twitched. This is inappropriate, she said, her voice suddenly thin. I'm not well enough for theatrics. Then sit, I said. You'll want to be comfortable. The first video began to play, Mom yelling at 13-year-old me to get back on the bike after a crash, blood trailing down my shin. Her voice echoing across the room, "You're pathetic." Aunt Samantha gasped. When was this? 2011, Leo said. We have hundreds more. The room went silent as footage played, clip after clip, me training with visible injuries, her berating me through tears, telling me I ruined her life. Then came the spinal injury video. The camera caught my scream as she tried to drag me up, the audible crack, her voice ordering the filming to stop, saying we couldn't go to the hospital, they'd ask questions. Mom stood abruptly. I need air. Wait, Leo said. There's more. He flipped through files, fake cancer reports, forged medical documents. Raymond pointed out the fake hospital letterheads, the non-existent doctor, bank statements showing where my prize money had gone, cycling gear, vacations, spa treatments. This is doctored, Mom shouted. They're tech-savvy. They can fake anything. Dad spoke up for the first time. I was there for some of this. It's real. She turned on him. You're still bitter about the divorce. You'd say anything to hurt me. Play the phone call, I told Leo. He clicked, and the room filled with her voice. You want to destroy me? Fine, but I'm taking you with me. Uncle Raymond shifted uneasily. That doesn't sound edited, he muttered. She's setting me up, Mom insisted. They're manipulating you. Leo held up a folder. These are the original medical records from the hospital. The real ones, not the ones she faked. He passed them around. Look at the dates, he said. Every injury lines up with a race. Every surgery postponed until the off-season. She didn't just neglect care, she planned around it. Aunt Linda's face drained of color. These fractures, they went untreated for months? She told me I was being dramatic, I said quietly. Mom's mask cracked. She lunged forward, tossing her walker aside. You ungrateful brat! I sacrificed everything for you! Dad and Leo stepped between us. Her face was twisted, her voice no longer soft or frail. See? She tried to recover. They're upsetting me. My heart condition? You don't have a heart condition, Raymond said flatly. I checked with the hospital. You've never even been admitted there. The room erupted. Relatives started shouting, demanding answers. Mom screamed denials. Bryn stepped outside and came back holding up his phone. I'm recording this, he said. Everyone needs to see what's really happening. Mom spun on him. You're my family. You're supposed to support me. I did, Bryn said. Until I saw those videos, that's child abuse. Get out! Mom shrieked. All of you! You're poisoning my family! This is my house, Dad said calmly. You leave. Mom glanced at the walker she'd thrown, realized the act was up, and stormed toward the door without it. You'll regret this, she hissed. All of you. I'll destroy every last one of you. When the door slammed behind her, the room fell still. Aunt Samantha was crying softly. Raymond stared at the floor, hands buried in his pockets. We helped her, Samantha whispered. We made the calls, wrote the letters. You didn't know, I said. We should have asked questions, Raymond said. Should have listened to your side. One by one, they apologized. Not all. A few cousins left without a word, still loyal to her. But most stayed. Most wanted to help now. Call the parents you contacted, Leo suggested. Tell them the truth. I'll speak to the school board, Samantha said. Explain how she manipulated us. Bryn was already typing on his phone. I'm posting the video, he said. People need to see who she really is. By that evening, the tide had started to turn. Parents who had pulled their kids from my class began calling the principal to apologize. The school's Facebook page filled with supportive comments. The superintendent personally called to say my psychological evaluation would be expedited. But Mom wasn't finished. Monday morning, Dad called in a panic. She's at my office, he said. Security won't remove her because she's saying it's a family emergency. Leo and I rushed over. We found her in the lobby, surrounded by confused onlookers, loudly telling anyone who would listen that Dad had stolen her chemotherapy medication. Security looked unsure. She seemed so small, so fragile, so convincing. That's my ex-wife, Dad said firmly. She's harassing me. I have a restraining order pending. He's lying, she wailed. He's keeping me from my chemo. He wants me to die. I rolled forward in my wheelchair. She doesn't have cancer, I said. We have confirmation from the hospital. Her eyes locked on mine, and for a split second, I saw something break. The realization that her performance was no longer working. You did this, she said softly at first, then louder. You did this! She charged at me. That's when security stepped in, finally restraining her as she screamed every threat in the book. The police arrived minutes later. I want her arrested, Dad told them, for harassment and trespassing. As they escorted her away, she was still yelling about lawsuits, revenge, conspiracies. But no one was listening anymore. The people around her had turned away, embarrassed by the display. Tuesday's psychological evaluation went smoothly. The psychiatrist, Dr. O'Callahan, reviewed both my medical records and the documents Mom had sent the district. "These are clearly forged," she said. "The formatting is wrong. The language isn't consistent with clinical standards. Whoever made these has no medical training." "When can I return to work?" "I'll have my report to the superintendent by tomorrow," she said. "You should be back by Thursday." Wednesday brought something I hadn't expected. 3 of my former students arrived at my apartment with their parents. "We wanted to apologize," one mother said. "We believed the lies. We should have trusted you." "Can we come back to class?" Sammy asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I miss adaptive PE." "Of course," I said, swallowing a lump in my throat. "Of course you can." That night, the district attorney called. "Your mother violated the restraining order multiple times. With the added evidence of fraud, harassment, and impersonation, she's facing significant jail time." "What about the $2 million lawsuit?" "Dropped," she said. Her attorney saw the video footage and the documents. "They've withdrawn from the case." Thursday morning, I returned to school. The principal met me at the entrance with a warm smile. "Welcome back," she said. "Your students have been asking for you every day." My classroom door was covered again, but this time with welcome back cards. The other teachers had organized it. Each card was signed with messages of support, regret, and encouragement. My adaptive PE class was more full than ever. Word had spread about what happened, about the truth, and new students had enrolled. Some parents stayed to watch that day. Some even cried as they watched their kids play adapted basketball and race across the gym in wheelchairs. "Miss, you're back." Sammy zoomed over in her chair, beaming. "I've been practicing the trick you taught me." She popped a perfect wheelie, balancing for a second before lowering gently back down. Other students crowded around, excited to show off what they'd been working on while I was gone. That afternoon, Leo texted, "Check the news." The local station was running a story on overtraining and abuse in youth athletics. While no names were mentioned directly, her arrest was featured. The Cycling Federation had also released new guidelines to better protect minor athletes from abusive training environments. Then came Friday, the final confrontation. Mom had made bail, and she showed up at school during dismissal, this time, not alone. She brought a small group of supporters, the cousins who still believed her. "There she is," she shouted, pointing at me. "The daughter who destroyed her own mother." But the parents moved first, forming a protective wall around me and the students. Mrs. McAllister stepped forward. "You need to leave, now." "This is public property," Mom snapped. "I have every right to be here." The principal emerged from the building with the school resource officer. "Actually, you're banned from school grounds," she said. "Leave or be arrested." Mom's supporters looked uncertain. One cousin tugged her sleeve. "Maybe we should go—" "No!" she barked, shaking him off. "I'm exposing the truth." She pulled out a stack of papers and flung them into the air. Pages scattered across the parking lot. More forged records, fake diagnoses, screenshots of messages I'd never sent. "See!" she screamed. "Evidence! She's a fraud!" No one picked up the papers. Instead, parents pulled out their phones, documenting the entire meltdown. Her remaining supporters slowly backed away, finally seeing the instability they'd spent so long defending. The school resource officer stepped forward. "Ma'am, you need to leave. Now." My mother looked around, desperate, eyes darting from face to face, realizing she no longer had an audience. Her posture wilted. "This isn't over," she muttered, but her voice no longer carried the weight it once did. "I'll find a way. I always do." She left with her dwindling circle of followers. Later that night, Leo told me that 2 of them had called him, apologizing, asking for the real story. The weekend passed peacefully. Dad came over for dinner Saturday night, more relaxed than I'd seen him in years. "The fraud case?" I asked. "Thrown out," he said. Her attorney dropped it the second they saw the forgery evidence. "Are you okay?" He smiled. "Better than okay. I'm free." He looked at me and added, "We all are." Sunday afternoon, I was planning lessons when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost let it go, but something nudged me to answer. "Is this Elise?" a woman asked. The voice was unfamiliar. "Yes?" "I'm calling from the Cycling Advocacy Foundation. We've been following your story. We'd like to offer you a consulting position, helping develop our new athlete protection program." I gripped the phone tighter. "I already have a job I love." "We know. This would be part-time. We're looking for someone to help us build better safety guidelines, to make sure what happened to you never happens to another young athlete. You could keep teaching." "Can I think about it?" "Of course. We'll send the details. Monday's mail brought another package. My hands trembled as I opened it, bracing for another threat. But this time, it wasn't that. Inside were my old cycling medals, the ones my mother had taken and never returned. There was a handwritten note from Aunt Linda. These belong to you. I'm sorry it took so long to return them. I found them while helping clean out your mother's storage unit. I held the medals in my hands, each one heavy with memory, pain, sacrifice. But instead of hiding them away, I brought them to school. My students gathered around as I explained what they meant, not just awards, but history. Sometimes, I told them, people push us too hard, even the ones who say they love us. But your body is yours. Your limits are real. And the people who truly care about you, they'll respect those limits. A new student raised her hand. Is that why you use a wheelchair? Yes, I said. Because someone pushed me past my limits. I paused, then smiled. But you know what? This chair isn't a limitation. It's freedom. Just like your adaptive equipment isn't holding you back. It's helping you fly. Then I demonstrated a racing technique in my chair. The kids erupted in cheers as I sped across the gym floor, laughing. This was what mattered. Not medals, not podiums, not the Olympics that never were. This, teaching kids to love their bodies exactly as they are. That evening, Leo called again. The DA offered her a plea deal, he said. 2 years in jail, 3 years probation, and mandatory psychiatric treatment. Will she take it? Her lawyer's advising it. The alternative is trial, everything public. I sat with that for a moment, thinking of her alone now, her web of lies in tatters. A small part of me felt sadness for the woman who couldn't let go of her illusions, but a bigger part of me just felt free. Good, I said. Maybe she'll finally get the help she needs. Tuesday brought an unexpected guest, Dr. McAllister. He showed up to my class with a clipboard and a smile. The hospital wants to fund an expansion of your adaptive PE program, he said. More equipment, assistant instructors, even a summer camp for kids with disabilities. Why? Because what you're doing matters. These kids need people who understand that adapted doesn't mean less. I accepted on the spot. Within a week, plans were underway. Parents volunteered to help with fundraising. The school board approved the proposal unanimously. My mother took the plea deal. I didn't attend the sentencing, but Dad did. He said she looked smaller. Not physically, but dimmed. Her presence, once so grand and consuming, had finally deflated. She didn't look at him once.